Hello everybody, let's make it better. Let's get back into it. This will be part 2B, mostly because originally was going to make a ship, and you guys will figure out the ship sooner or later, but I will change it into someone else. I don't really want to do the same thing, so yeah. Let's right when I left off is Zuko pretty much getting to the class 1A door, pretty much thinking it's a really big door. Hopefully his teacher is not that big. And as he was pretty much opening the door, he see Bakugo and Ida pretty much arguing up to a point where Bakugo was pretty much saying, "Did someone stick that put that stick up your ass or not? If not, then he can take it out or put it back in." And at that point, Ida saw Zuko and pretty much walked up to him and tried to apologize for what he had done earlier in the last week. And Zuko pretty much said it's all good. Zuko pretty much said, "I understand. Your nerves were pretty much overclouding your judgment. It's all cool. Hopefully we can be friends past this." And Zuko pretty much pulled out his hand and they shook hands. Right after this, Uraraka came by, tapped on Zuko's shoulder, not saying what she usually said, but pretty much saying, "Hey, sorry, I don't remember getting your name." Oh, Zuko pretty much turned around and looked at her and said, "Oh, I'm Izuku Midoriya. And you?" She said, "Uraraka Ochako." They both shake hands, and she pretty much thanks him for saving her. And Zuko pretty much gave her the same thing in canon, but not as nervous. By this point, Zuko looked through the classroom, seeing where he could sit, and he decided to sit in the back, right next to a girl and a guy. On the girl on the right side, and a guy on the left side. And Uraraka chose to sit right in front of him. I'm not sure where the sitting arrangements are, but I remember these two were sitting close. I need to check, but I'll just move things around. After all that, the teacher come up, told everybody to shut up. Some of them do, but they're still talking. Aizawa getting pissed at this point, telling them to go outside. We're going to do a fitness test and see who's qualified to stay in his class. So, after the whole argument and actually leaving, Zuko is in the room changing. For his kind of figure, it's more like Spider-Man's. His muscles are not there. It's more lean, and it doesn't really show with his shirt, but when you take it off, it shows that he has a lot of muscle. But since it's more being flexible and more, I don't know how to say it, but help people with trapeze or do a bunch of flips do have that kind of muscle. Kirishima pretty much asked Zuko what he does what kind of training he does, and Zuko pretty much tells him that he worked with his quirk to make himself stronger. And they ask what exactly is his quirk, and Zuko pretty much stopped this conversation because he sees something and he did not like. At this point, Manila is pretty much drooling and telling everybody that there's a hole in the wall going to the Holy Land. Jiro was about... Zuko pretty much covered the hole, and Jiro accidentally hit Zuko's hand. And Zuko pretty much said, "Ah, shit, that hurt. Ah." Grape juice. And the little kid, the little one said, "What? Wait, are you talking about me?" And Zuko said, "Yeah. See this? That could have been your eye." Ah, shit. Oh, dang, that hurt. And Manila got a little scared hearing that. And Zuko said, "But next time, I won't be covering for you. I will be the one to do it myself. But Zuko pretty much sees the hole and not look through it, but he tried see if anybody in the room has anything to use. And he sees Todoroki. He knows who Todoroki is and asks him if he could put some ice through here. And Todoroki was about to leave, but he sees the hole and said, sure. And just put his finger right on it, and it froze up the hole. Zuko would just tell the teacher afterwards. So everybody's up there. Let's move on to Juro. Juro was trying to tell everybody that what has happened about a little pervert trying to look. Some guy moved his hand and I accidentally stabbed him. I'm not sure which one he was, but he seems pretty nice. And she is pretty much telling that to the girl's side. And so they leave, going up, lining up. And Zuko is still holding his hand and just pretty much shaking. And Aizawa pretty much throw the ball at Zuko and tell him to throw a ball. Ask him how far his throw was in middle school. Zuko gave him a number, and Aizawa pretty much said, "Do it with use your quirk." Everybody's getting excited to. Well, Zuko said, "Okay, sir." Man, that freaking hurt. That's still him. He's not. He's strong, but he has not worked out on his hands because it went right in the palm, in the middle, where most of the nerves are like intertwined. So it's still messing with some of his fingers. And so he just look at the ball, and then turn on his quirk, see if your strings are intertwined with each other, and he just pulled back, put the ball right there. Everybody is confusing on how he's throwing it, and Zuko pretty much let go, kind of like a giant slingshot, and it went flying, and it went 700. No, it went 552. I'll give it that. Pretty much same in canon, I believe. Don't remember exactly the number, but it's same thing in canon. And everybody was pretty impressed with that, even though he didn't really throw anything. And everybody's pretty much excited, thinking, saying out loud, and they're gonna have much fun using their quirks. And Aizawa pretty much said, "So you think this is fun, huh? Alright then. Anybody in the last place of this whole fitness test will be expelled." And everybody's afraid now, and this time get serious. Ooh. Oh dang, I'm bleeding. Okay. Sorry. Where was I? So everybody pretty much do their... I don't remember everything, but I'll do my best. So the next one is their time on how fast they can go. Zuko is paired up with Ida, and they're getting ready. Get ready, get set, and Zuko have his foot up in the air, but to everybody else it's in the air. To him, he's stepping on one of the strings, pushing it down to be under him. And right when it said go, he used it to slingshot, pretty much jump and slingshot himself to the other side. So he actually went the same speed as Ida. And Zuko pretty much kind of like a barrel roll down to the floor and looking at the time, and pretty much said yes. And he pretty much everybody did the same thing. Bakugo used his explosion, Todoroki uses his ice, and go to the other side. The next one will be, I don't remember, but that long jump from one spot to another, the standing long jump. It'll be everybody does it. Zuko's up next because I want him to be last, and Izuku pretty much step on a few of his threads and just get to the highest point and just stay there. So he got infinity. And Zao knows what his quirk is called, but he doesn't really understand it. So he will ask it later. The next one is a grip test, and everybody's pretty good. Zuko didn't get that high. He's around the third highest, because he had to hold on to the threads, and those threads are pretty sharp. So either he used gloves or be strong enough to hold them. So we go to the ball throw, and everybody pretty much does it, and everybody's pretty good at it. Uraraka got infinity, and Zuko pretty much stepped up and asked Aizawa if he can throw again. I want to test something. And Aizawa said, fine, since you're the last one, it's alright. So Zuko pretty much stood there. Instead of using his threads, start popping up his body and pretty much wind up the ball. And this one, he actually throw it. And it went further. Last time I said 10%. And that's pretty good. So he went to instead of, I usually like put 2 zeros behind any when he has one for all, and so it would have been 1,000, but for him he went up to 900 kilometers, and everybody's pretty surprised to see this and impressed that he can throw something that far. Well, not kilometers, but feet. I know it was feet, not that meters. Dang it, I keep forgetting. I think it's meters. Yeah, meters. And so everybody's pretty much leaving to class, and Jiro kind of like walked next to Zuko. And Zuko said, yes. And he's just still like covering up his hand. And she pretty much grabbed his arm and seized it and pretty much said, I'm sorry for... and she's pointing at the little wound. And for that. And Zuko said, it's no problem, as long as you guys are okay. I think it will heal about 2 more days and that'll be good. But you don't need to worry about it. And she kind of like nods and walks away. Everybody pretty much leaving. And same thing happens. Zuko's friends with... no, I'll change it up. He still has the same friend group in canon, but he's going to have a few more other friends. Well, they're technically going to be his friends, but not really. Where was I? So about a week passed. End of the week, actually. It's on a Friday, and they hear footsteps, and All Might is coming. He walked into the door like a hero, like a normal person, but like a hero. Everybody's excited, even Deku, because at this point he hasn't really trained with All Might. He just did it himself. And so everybody's taken to go to that very area to do the hero and versus villains. And at this point, they are coming up. Uraraka and Zuko versus Katsuki, Kachan, and Ia as villains. The villains are getting ready, and right when it's time to go, it's ready, set, go! And Deku pretty much knows what her quirk is, because they are friends, they can pretty much talk about it. Zuko pretty much asked her if she could make herself weightless, and she says she can, and she asked why, and Zuko said, just don't worry, just hold on to me. And she kind of does, blushing. And she's pretty much holding on to him. And Zuko pretty much said, are you ready? And she said, ready for what? And Zuko pretty much leaning back, holding onto one of his threads, and slingshot to the roof. Right on top, and slowly stepping down. Well, holding on with one hand and lowering himself to the ceiling, roof. And Uraraka said, okay, now what? And Zuko said, well, I figure it would be closer to the top instead of in the bottom. How most villains are. They're not very smart. And I figure the bomb will either be too big or too complicated to move. So I figured it'd be around up here. And so she say, oh, that's really smart. But now what? Now what? And Zuko said, well, I guess we're going down. And so they're going down the stairs as Bakugo already left and went downstairs. Right at the point where Bakugo went all the way to the door, opening and getting pissed that nobody is here. And he just pretty much ran right back to the room. So Zuko and Uraraka is in the room. Ida doing his little monologue, ha ha, heroes, and stuff like that. And Zuko pretty much told Uraraka to go around and he'll be the extraction. Am I saying it right? Distraction? There we are. And so Izuku pretty much stepped up and act like he tripped in and said, "Oh no, this is the wrong room. See ya." And he's Ida pretty much speeds towards him, and Zuko he turned on his quirk, but not his regular one where he can only see it. Now Ida is in the range where he can see it too, and he's looking around and looking all over the room and asking him, "How did you put him trapped in here? I was in here this whole time." And he was saying this out loud, but he was still running, so he actually ran into one of the threads. And Zuko said, "Okay, red jail, red thread jail," and all the wires, all the threads that were like moving around pretty much straightened up and pretty much made Ida get stuck kind of like a statue. He can't really move, and he's asking why he can't move. And Zuko said, well, my quirk is called Red Threads of Fate. These threads are impossible to break to anybody other than me. And Zuko pretty much grabbed one of them and move it down, pretty much moving it. See, I can move it, but I just want. This is one of my new tricks. And Ida is pretty much stuck. He can't really move and pretty much get taken out because Zuko pretty much wrapped up the tape, capturing him. And Uraraka was getting really close to touching it, and Bakugo pretty much slammed through the door and saying, "Where are you, nerd?" And right at that point, Hero Team wins. So everybody's pretty much leaving. Ida is out of that when he stopped seeing it, and when Zuko turned off his quirk. Oh. Ida pretty much is asking what exactly his quirk can do, and does he mean the actual red thread of fate? And Zuko said yes. I do not want to show it to anybody, mostly because if they see their soulmate, it's complicate things. And Ida said okay, and that seems understandable. But the real reason is Zuko doesn't want to show people who is gonna be hitched with, because he wants to be the cause of it, not his quirk. Oh dang! Not even. I didn't know I was that close. So everybody pretty much was getting into the area, the TV room, and All Might pretty much tell them what they did right, and the real MPP is Deku, since he planned ahead, went through a route where no one had thought of, planned out exactly how to do things, and trap one of the villains without hurting them. Because a hero should never kill. For now. Should I Yeah, I'm probably going to make this a part 3 instead of a part 2 and a B. Oh well. Let me think. I believe it was a month before they went, so I have a month of work. So Zuko's pretty much everybody's in the next day. Comes up, everybody's in their class talking. He's talking to Suyu because he's sitting right next to her, and they're just chatting up because they're really bored and this is their free period. And she's asking about his quirk, and Zuko said, "Oh, it's called the Red Thread of Fate." And she said, "Yeah, but can you like show me?" Or because Ida said on the last week that he could see it, and I kind of want to see the red threads. I heard they were like beautiful or something, and Zuko said, sure, I guess." And some of the girls were hearing this, and they all want to see the red threads. I heard they were beautiful, really pretty. And Zuko said, I mean, I can, but okay. And he's just kind of like stand up. Who else wants to see the red threads? And everybody that was pretty much intervening, pretty much overheard the thing, said and pretty much rolled their hand. And it's everybody in the whole class, even Todoroki, because he's curious as well. And Zuko said, "Okay, but it's gonna be separate with the boys and with the girls. Are you guys okay with that?" And some of them are asking why, and Zuko will tell them why if they agree. They say okay, and they walk off. So the guys walk off because the girls asked first. And the girls pretty much said, "Okay, now what?" Zuko said, "Well, there's two ways, but I don't really feel comfortable with the first one, so I'm doing the second." And Suyu asked, "What's the first one?" And Zuko said, "Usually I had to hold your hands and turn on my quirk, and you guys will see it. But I've been learning to expand my area, so everybody just get in close. Don't worry, my hands are up here." Being pretty much respectful. So everybody's pretty much, this is how it is. All the girls right around the table of the front, where the teachers are, and Zuko's like up in the front board. So that's the area. Zuko pretty much said, "Okay, everybody ready?" "Yes." And he turned on his quirk. Everybody pretty much is looking, and Zuko tells them, "Okay, you can look around the room." And Zuko, they are looking, and they are so memorized because it kind of, for them, it looks like, how can I explain it? Some are really thick, like rope. Some are really thin, like actually spire webs thin. So all of them are walking around, and Zuko pretty much told them to walk slower for the threads to move around you. And they agree, and they're just looking around, and they see they are surrounded by the threads too. And they're trying to get off of them, but they can't. And Zuko pretty much tell them, "Well, those are your threads. Each loop shows that you'd be one step closer to your soulmate. So everybody's around 10 to 20 loops around them." And Zuko felt kind of like a tug from Suyu, and she said, "So what does it mean that my thread connected to yours?" And Zuko said, "What? Can you run that by me again?" And she kind of like holds one of the threads, and when she pulls it pulls Zuko a little closer to her. And Zuko said, "Oh, well, I guess we are soulmates." And he kind of laughing, and she's asking why you laughing, and Zuko said, "Well, I wasn't really expecting my soulmate to be here in the same class with me." And the girls are getting excited to see all this, that Zuko and Suyu are soulmates, and this is the shit. So Zuko pretty much asked her, "I'm not gonna force anything on you, but since you already know, and I just learned that, would you like to go on a date?" And she pretty much kind of blushing at this point because she's never been asked out on a date. Mostly because most of them are bullying her or make fun of her quirk of being a frog. So Suyu said, okay, let's go on a date. So all the girls are kind of like following their threads and want to see where's their goal, and it's outside the room. And none of theirs are going anywhere else, and going like right next to the door where all the guys are listening in. And most of the guys either pretty much like looking out on the window, trying not to disturb the girls. And the girls kind of ask Zuko, so where are... And Zuko said, oh, that's mostly the reason why. I already checked as I walked in the first day, and yeah, your soulmates are also here in the room, in our classroom, and they're kind of excited, asking Zuko to show them who it is. Zuko said, that ruined the fun of it, giving a little evil grin, and they're asking why won't he show them. Zuko said, well, look to your threads, and they do. Zuko pretty much tell them, each of you guys have like a certain problem or obstacle to go over first. I could help you, but I don't feel like it. But it will give you a step closer. Like you, Jiro. And she kind of said, yeah. Zuko said, you just need to go over one more hurdle, and then you actually find your soulmate. And she wanted to ask why. She's asking who is it, or what's the obstacle? And Zuko said, since it's one step closer, he pretty much plucked the string. It's kind of like an instrument of some sort, and she kind of sees further in the future. Not everything she sees that she's nervous about of a song, and someone pretty much walked up to her and compliment her on her singing and her that she should do it since she has a bunch of instruments in her room. And Zuko pretty much stopped it at that point. She couldn't, and she asked who was that, and Zuko said, if you remember this in the exact scene, you'll figure out. I purposely blocked the person's looks, voice, height, and area for you to have a little more time to grow. And everybody else asked how many more steps until they're getting close, and to help them. And Zuko said, okay, that's enough time. Since it's getting halfway there, I'll get the guys in and you guys talk about it afterwards. And he turned to Suyu and said, Suyu, since you already know, so what time should our date start? And she says, oh, the time they are that they're all doing this around a week before the USJ. So all the girls pretty much leave and said it's your turn, and so the guys experience the same thing, looking at it. And Ida said, so this is the threads you were talking about, and he's asking more questions like how strong are they, and how can you break them or anything? And Zuko said, yes, I can break one, but I'd rather not break it. And they said, so what happened when you break one of them? And Zuko said, well, I'm not gonna show you, but it's kind of like this. I was attacked by a villain, and when I got free from him, as someone came and helped, but it came out again and attacked one of my friends. Bakugo already knows this, and he didn't say that part, but he said, and Bakugo is like thinking of that day, and remembering that Zuko was like shocked. And Zuko pretty much said, and I pretty much pulled that kid out of the sludge villain, and I got stuck in. I got myself in there, and as I was struggling, I pulled one of his threads so hard, out of desperation, I actually broke it. And he showed the movements of breaking it, and Zuko pretty much said, but as soon as I broke it, that very villain stops struggling on me, attacking me, and he dies. And Zuko pretty much said, your threads are connected to your lifeline. It's your lifeline, actually. Once your soulmate dies, your thread of life turns to be the thread of death. And they said death? Zuko said yeah, but they stay red. And it'll go to a certain area forever. And when it's time for you to die, it knows exactly where it will happen. Like how I knew my grandfather was gonna die at that time. So they're kind of like patting on him and saying it's okay, you don't have to say anymore, and they're just enjoying the rest. And Zuko pretty much said, okay, so, and he looks at Manila, and Manila said, what? Is something on me? Zuko said, yeah. Look around you and see, and tell me what you see. And he said, threads. Okay. Now tell me how many threads in total for each person? And he counts each one that's wrap around. And he's counting about 20 to 15. Zuko said, okay. And he pointed to Manila. Okay, Manila. Now count how many threads you have. And Manila counts. Still counting. Still counting. Still counting. Still counting. And he went up to 1,000. And Manila said, so what's this mean? Zuko said, well, until you fix all of your problems, and he's talking to all the guys, like you, Kaminari, right? And he said, yeah. Zuko said, well, you're actually the perfect example. You only have 5 loops around yourself. And he kind of said, yeah, I'm like one of the lowest around here, except you, Zuko. And Zuko said, yeah, this means if you're 10 or lower, you're really close, meaning your soulmate. And everybody else kind of looks at their threads and seeing that they have a few more than they do. Someone have 11, so they just need to do 2 more and they'll find their soulmate. Zuko pretty much tells them, I can help you, and he's rubbing his fingers, and he pretty much kind of grinning. And most of them know what this means. The ones that doesn't know are not really interested in finding who it is. And they say, oh, okay. And Zuko pretty much said, okay, I'll use you and Manila as an example. And Manila said, okay, what are you gonna do? Zuko pretty much he used one of his index finger and pull on his thread, and Manila's getting scared that he's gonna break it, and he kind of like waving his hand, say, no, don't break it. And Zuko said, it's fine, and he let go. And Manila pretty much stopped and start feeling a headache in his head, screaming to stop, screaming at him to. Okay, off track. I There's a few people out there that was giving Manila like a backstory, because there are a few people that does like him. I don't really care for him, but I really don't hate him either. So this will be his backstory. I got this from a TikToker, not remember her name, but she pretty much gave him the story. This will be a 18 or older story, so if you are not 18 or older, please skip to 37 minutes and I'll move back to the story, okay? So, Manila is actually a child of a slut and a man. His father is actually a pervert like him, so much so that he never found a woman. So he kind of paid a slut to have sex with him and have a child, and he convinced her to not abort him. And after he was grown, I'm trying to rush this. Manila just pretty much lived with his mother through all this time as a stripper. She stopped being a slut and became a stripper. She's making good money and stuff. She's just being a good mother, and Manila got his personality from his dad. And that's exactly what his story is. And it's pretty bad, since he can't really tell his friends exactly who his mother is and where his father is. And that's kind of it. Okay, back where we are originally. I kind of timed it perfectly without messing up. So the people who knows. And Zuko pretty much tell Manila, kind of whispering that he knows. Well, in his head, it's pretty much tell Manila to forget about his father and don't compare yourself to him. You can be better. And so Manila is like hearing this, and when it stopped, he agrees with it, and so he's trying. From that point on, he started to change for the better. So Zuko pretty much told everybody as this was going on, telling them, as you can see, when I plug on one of your strings, it pretty much tells you exactly what you need to do. Usually, it will tell you to do one thing. For Manila, it's telling him to forget about his deadbeat father. And Zuko pretty much said, and I won't say anything else, unless he wants to. And Zuko pretty much said, well, until you agree to it, it will never stop. And yeah, and see one of his threads like slowly disappearing. And Zuko said, see, it disappeared. And now it became 999. So one step less. And that was just a free trial. Everything else will be, and he's rubbing his fingers. Everybody said, okay. Zuko said, but in secret. I don't want the girls, and he's whispering at this point, I don't want the girls to know I'm doing this for you guys. They know about it, but I'm not gonna. I'm technically giving you guys the lead, okay? And they said, okay, good. And Kirishima said, pretty much look at his thread, and he's just pointing through the door. All the guys are pointing to the door, but Manila's like pointing through one of the walls. I have someone in mind for Manila, but I'm not sure if I should do it or not. Maybe in a few parts later. So everybody pretty much finished with the class is over. Everybody pretty much leaving home, and all of them are just thanking Izuku. And I say this was Friday because next week will be for it. I've been changing the dates a lot. So Zuko pretty much went on his date with Suyu, and I will tell you in details in the next part. I'm not gonna go too much in deep, but in the next, yeah, the video is over already. I'm just going extra. Pretty much, I'm gonna be talking about Suyu and Midoriya's date, how it went, how it was. Probably put a video in if I can find it again. Afterwards, it will be the USJ and probably some extra. Depends. And that will be it for today. Thank you for listening. Right now it's 2 subscribers. I am so happy. I'm somehow famous. But really, thank you for subscribing. If you want to put a like, I really don't care. I don't see it. And for right now, I'm using all this on my phone. So yeah, I can't really edit things right now. But anyway, thank you for listening and have a nice day. Goodbye.